A heart without dreams is like a bird without feathers. If there's a heartbeat, there's still time for a dream. Our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. But every great dreams begin with a dreamer.
Source Filmmaker was a tool created by Valve Corporations. It was used to create over 50 animated shorts for its Source games. On June 27, 2012, Valve released a free open beta version of Source Filmmaker to the gaming community via Steam service. Source Filmmaker is free and easy to use, and so it quickly became a personal choice for everyone. It offered an opportunity for many content creators from all over the globe to come together in solidarity, to learn, to help, to inspire, and to entertain people of the internet. A great community was born from this and stood about as tall as the Gmod community. However, like many communities, there's always a dark side of it. From the outlook, Source Filmmaker may be a glorious and unified community, but underneath is a bloody trail of dramas, betrayals, and treacheries. Today, we'll be talking about that dark side of the SFM community, and that dark side is Kuro's Gang.
Mission Control, we have a belligerent dumbass here that won't cooperate. Shots fired, I'm taking cover. Yeah, I'm doing all I can. I'm gonna need you to send me in some backup.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical. They can't be bought, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Hi, I'm Taxon, but you can call me Jackie. Most of you may have known me for my animations on this channel, and I presume some of you don't even know who I am. But who I am is not important. Now forgive me for my accents, because English isn't my first language, so if you have a hard time understanding me, please turn on the subtitles. I've also uploaded this video to other platforms in case a little dips try to take it down. So please check out the description and note down everything before we proceed. I have to warn you, you're in for a very long ride. You see, ever since the internet became public, it brought many people from all over the world together, and also giving the shady individual even more opportunity to conduct a new type of crimes known as cybercrimes. And cybercrimes are so easy that anyone can do it. On the internet, you are anonymous. No one knows who you are, where you live, and the internet is harder to police, if not outright impossible. But that doesn't mean we should do nothing about it. Now, truth be told, if you see something morally wrong and illegal and you don't do anything about it, you're pretty much part of the problem. Ignorance can be an excuse, but apathy isn't. To be honest, I have a lot of hatred for the way my favorite content creators were treated by Kuro's Gang, and it's also happening to my friends and other people since 2017. I feel like it's time to expose them for who they are and help raise awareness about them. Here are the crooks we'll be looking into today, starting with Kuro, also known as Babu, Toxic Co, also known as Toxic Bucket, Mirabu Studios, and lastly, Gibbous. So now you might be wondering, why would these individuals with such skill and talents would ever stoop that low? Well,
reality is often disappointing.
And those disappointments are the topics we will discover today. But for now, let us begin with my personal experience with Kuro. Okay, for a little bit of recap, Kuro and I were members of the same server. Kuro did something bad, got banned. For the sake of censorship reasons, the server will be referred to as the Sanctuary, and the owner will be referred to as Simaris. Around October 16, 2018, Kuro uploaded a Goblin Slayer model to the XFM workshop, or so everyone thought. I notified everyone about it since Goblin Slayer was trendy around this time. Everyone was hyped until they realized who uploaded it. They seemed to be having an uneasy feeling about it, and most refused to talk about Kuro in public. Some testing later revealed that the actual model wasn't the Goblin Slayer, but a character from Infinity Blade. It was only now that I was aware of Kuro's infamous reputations. It didn't take that long for the Goblin Slayer add-on on the workshop to be altered into the Infinity Blade add-on. Here you can see the description saying there was a strange glitch. But what kind of glitch that altered both the description and the thumbnail that coincidentally associating with a recently trending character on the internet into something different? This was no glitch, I can tell you that. Am I overlooking at a harmless joke too much? If tricking someone's expectation can be considered as a joke these days, then humor has truly lost its standard and meaning. This was also brought up in Dai Tomodachi's public server. Kuro had taken down several of his add-ons before after uploading them to SFM Workshop for some times. Add-ons such as Xenoblade 2, 4 Goddesses Online models, and plenty more. Whenever he was asked for the reasons of why did he remove them, his excuse usually were to free his account's upload space on the workshop. Strangely enough, I have never heard this upload space limit problem before. Fast forward to January 22nd, 2019. After posting an NSW poster I made on a server named My's Questionable Server. It was named after its owner, My, no doubt. My poster caught the attention of someone. His name was Gibbous. Gibbous began to admire my artwork. He gave me some fair criticisms and was more than happy to welcome me to his server. Even gave me a warning beforehand for the harsh critiques I may be receiving from his server. Harsh criticism isn't a problem for me, as long as it is constructive. So I accepted his invitation and joined his server to meet with new faces and to learn new things. Or so I had hoped. However, my appearance in the server was short-lived. Upon entry, I was banned in less than 10 minutes for unknown reasons. Apparently, it was the decision of another unknown admin, which also raised a big question mark on my head. Since this was Gibbous' server, shouldn't Gibbous have the authority here?
You have no power here.
Why did his admin ban me out of the blue? I don't remember having upset anyone or even made any enemies ever since I joined Discord. Gibbous was also displeased by the decision of his fellow admin. He also told me they have been doing the same routine too many times before. Then I learned that the reason I got banned was due to my association with Simaris, the owner of the Sanctuary, and they hate him with a passion. I thought this was just a big misunderstanding. Even still, they already gave me a very bad impression. However, the next thing I heard from Gibbous was that they told him I made rape posters. And everything started to get a bit stranger the further I dwelled myself into this topic with Gibbous. None of this makes any sense to me. I don't remember I have made any rape loops. What was he talking about? While Gibbous was busy arguing with his admin, the next unexpected thing happened. Out of nowhere, Kuro sent me an invite link back to the server. This was when I knew something bad is waiting for me in that server. Now, you might not believe me because in this screenshot there were only my messages to him, For context, he's also well known for deleting his own messages he had with other people to cover his tracks. A very smart and cautious move on his end. But unfortunately, he always left his backdoors open somewhere. However, the facts are unchanged. Kuro and Givers are the two admins of that server. Only they have the ability to unban and allow me to re-enter that server. When I gained access back to the server, I was welcomed as Rape Man by Kuro. He also gave me an offensive nickname. Clearly, Kuro was expecting me. He invited me back after all.
Gosh, after a welcome this warm, who wouldn't want to just stay forever?
This place isn't for you.
I made a quick look back at the chat when I was banned earlier. Kuro and his associates were not happy with my presence and were unsettled about me. But then why did they decide to invite me back? It didn't raise any more questions in my head because the answer was as clear as daylight at this point. His intention wasn't hard to read. Only RBG and Givers were the only two reasonable people trying to convince Kuro to give me a chance, an act that I would respect them for. However, my respect towards Givers was soon dropped straight to the center of the earth. You will know more about him as we progress further in the video. Kuro then mentioned and pinged me in the NSW channel, the same channel where I posted my NSW poster earlier before the ban. Kuro began taunting me to post my disgusting stuff back in it again. This was clearly bait, and Kuro was expecting me to take it. Did I have any doubts? Any regrets? No. I came back to give a server for one thing only. To see what kind of person Kuro truly really is. So I took his bait. I posted my stuff back in the NSW channel and Kuro's gang began to harass me. They started mocking me for being a brony, made fun of my race. That clearly shows you how mature these people are. To make it clear, I was already done with my brony face long before this. The only reason I was still using the Pony-Sona back then was for nostalgic reasons. But I doubt Kuro and his accomplices care not to do any research and would just dig up anything they could salvage from my own posts on DeviantArt or the Sanctuary just to try to tick me off. In their eyes, I'm just another bug under their heels, waiting to be squashed. Also, they changed my nickname to Trigger Retard. They dug deeper into my DeviantArt gallery, brought up every bit of my past history and dropped them in my face, trying to squeeze out every bit of those juicy and delicious reactions I had in me. Givers was slowly taking side with Kuro the further the conversation carried itself to. He didn't want to defy his master, he knew his life was at stake. Then they began to circle jerk around the loot poster I made. This one was only posted in the Sanctuary server where Kuro and his gang were clearly banned from. But they somehow managed to acquire it and use it as evidence against me, proving that I was guilty as charged, that I was a rapist. This means they had spies in the Sanctuary. They wanted to crack me, so they kept pushing more and more. At this point, the channel had become a vicious cycle of circle jerking around three topics. I'm a rapist, I'm a horsefucker, and I'm a VC. And it went on for the next 2 hours. Kuro also screen capped the conversation in the chat. He probably was going to use it to paint a bad picture about me. Online trolling? I can stand that. But falsely claim allegations? In no way I can stand that bullshit. In case any of you still don't know what rape is, which I highly doubt, but I still need to get my point across regardless. Rape is a type of sexual assault usually involving sexual intercourse or other forms of sexual penetration carried out against a person without that person's consent. The term rape is sometimes used interchangeably with the term sexual assault. So in short, rape is an act of physical sexual assault against someone's will. Not that hard to understand its definition, yes? So how can this poster be considered an act of physical sexual assault against someone's will, considering it's just a 3D render pictures with 2 fictional characters in it, which are also my Gmod sonars? There's clearly nothing physical about them because they aren't even real. Since when do fictional characters have their own will and conscience to begin with? Like, do hentai artists have to ask for the consent of the characters they're going to make an illustration with? I'm sure you're now asking, why does this poster even exist and what's the context behind it? Well, around this time I came up with a concept for an animation project, so the poster was serving as nothing more but a piece of concept art. Since I haven't even used my pony anymore at the time, so the inside joke here is that his importance has been reduced to nothing more but a generic porn actor. And 2 months later, within that time, Kuro has never even bothered to send anyone to me asking for the context behind this. They obviously didn't even do any research and would just jump straight to conclusion that I was a rapist simply because the poster has this suggestive theme behind it. Has any one of you ever seen Hollywood movies or anime in general? It's a plot point for the fucking story, not a fucking act of endorsing rape! I'm sorry, if it was 2 of my sonars and I was the one who made it and it wasn't meant to be harmful or anything, then it really couldn't have been intentional. Then again, why didn't Kuro bring this up when RPG and Givers questioned him why I was banned? His reason was as clear as daylight. It was because I'm associated with people he dislikes, people that he hates. If I was truly a rapist, then why did he even go out his way to invite me back to his server only just to taunt me in every way possible just to get my reaction? Shouldn't he, you know, like anyone with common sense, report me to the police?
You are fake news.
The rapist accusation was just a ruse he came up with from the top of his head, just to screw around with me. Clearly, if I had committed this crime, I would not have been sitting here making this video but rotting somewhere in jail. Now they may claim that I might still be a criminal on the loose, then where's their proof? I have my right to be presumed innocent. I do not need to say anything else at this point and can now move on from this. So after giving Kuro and his associates what they wanted, I silently left the server. Does this mean I have lost for taking their bait? Does this mean I am what they accuse me for? No, I am not and never will. They believed they had me where they wanted without realizing I was baiting them the entire time. By putting up an act of a helpless sheep amongst the wolves, I have managed to bring out the worst of them by giving them reactions. They gave back their own reactions to me in return, which I have all screen capped to use in this video. Back then I didn't expect this screenshot would do me any good, but Kuro proved me wrong. He gave me a motivation to study him and his gang. You may argue that it was my fault for them to react that way. Well, they shouldn't have invited me back to that server with such hostility towards me in the first place. Any community head runners would try to avoid tensions and drama the moment they start appearing in their communities. But here that wasn't the case, because Kuro was clearly asking for this. He was also pinging the chat to direct more attention towards me. And with that, I have completed my objective. On January 30, 2019, which was a week later after the incident in Givers servers, I uploaded an animation promoting the Sanctuary on my channel as a thank you to this friendly community that I was part of for 2 years, which caught the attention of Kuro's gang quickly. And just like any radical freedom fighter movements, a special event is a perfect opportunity to start some shitstorm. It was very late when I had the video uploaded, so I went to sleep. While I was resting in my slumber, the staff members had to deal with two troublemakers named Toxie and Sourcebird. Toxie was formerly a member of the Sanctuary when I first joined, but at some point he left and was never heard from ever again, until this moment. Sourcebird was notoriously infamous to the point he was banned from at least 10 servers for his behaviors, couldn't be more. Needlessly to say, they were up to something and it was no good. First, Toxie added one of the staff members to his friend list. Then out of the blue, Toxie told him to add a new NSW rule to the server, banning rape content. This was a ploy to get as much reactions as possible so that he couldn't feed the screenshots he has taken from the DM to Sourcebird and presumably to Kuro's gang as well to spread more false rumors about the server. Toxie then joined the server. He had no NSW role and was confident enough to know what's buried within the NSW channel. Toxie started accusing Simaris and the staff members for defending rape, simply for not having that rule he requested to be put in the rules channel. This makes the staff members surprised and confused at the same time due to the suspicious nature of his unknown motive. According to Toxie's logic, he believed that if a server doesn't enforce anti-rape rules, then that means the server must be supporting rape. Wow! Mind-blowing! Big-brained! Oh look, this server doesn't have any anti-rape rules. Then it means this server is supporting rape! Oh look, this milk box doesn't say rape is bad. Then that means this milk box is supporting rape. And look over here.
Rape is good.
I don't say rape is good. He's a rapist! Apparently someone forgot Discord TOS is a thing. Because he's a fucking moron. One of the staff members told Toxie they were discussing it. But Toxie insisted the staff members to mention everyone in the server to inform them about it. Not even long after that request, Sourcebird joined the server. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what Toxie was trying to do here. If the staff members were to mention everyone, it would gather every currently active member to the scenes. Then Toxie and Sourcebird would use this moment to start as much trouble as possible to degrade the popularity of the server before the staff members couldn't fully mobilize and clean up their mess. They couldn't care less about rape. They wanted reactions. They wanted to cause as much shit in the server as possible before getting banned. The staff members knew the risk, so they took actions. Sourcebird was instantly banned for his infamous status. The new NSW rule was added, so Toxie had no more say in this. Toxie was also warned and was put on supervision by the staff members until they decide what to do with him next. After Sourcebird was banned, he started accusing Simaris of being a rapist in DMs. How did the debate end? Well, let's say it went so well that Sourcebird had to delete all his messages to save himself from shame.
What the fuck?
Thanks to these two troublemakers, the Sanctuary has been improved in every way when the new rules were added and the new security layout was established. Their contribution will be noted and duly ignored. While everything was settled in the Sanctuary, I woke up the next day and found two of Kuro minions, Luna and Sourcebird, were already dispatched to my video to ploy me into a debate with them in the comment section. I also noticed something went down the server when I was asleep, so I came to Simaris and asked him about the event I have missed last night in the Sanctuary. He informed me everything about it. Apparently, Luna is one of those typical elitist stereotypes I've heard a lot about in the SFM community, who thinks he's above everyone else and believes that his posters are superior to them, that he should be a prime example for them to look up to and follow. In every server he was part of, Luna would openly insult any artwork he finds them to be lacking in his standards without giving any positive feedback or any workarounds, unless he was pressured by the staff members to do so. In Luna's mind, he believes that criticism doesn't have to be constructive. That criticism is labeled down as two only categories, good and bad. And if it has even a tiniest flaw in it, then it is ultimately bad, and he would go out his way to insult you for it. When I investigated the on-check log in the staff channel, I found many reports of Luna's misbehaviors, such as putting someone's character into a Venom War pictures to trigger him, giving the constructive criticisms to every single artwork that were posted in the server. Luna also taunted a staff member when he was warned for his misbehaviors. He even played a dumb game with Simaris when he was confronted. Ever since Luna joined the server, he has never posted any of his artworks. Seems like someone is too afraid to receive the same treatment. From speculations, many have theorized that Luna was a 12-year-old kid, perhaps even younger, without any evidence to back it up so far. This theory wasn't just a theory, it was fact. Who's fighting criticism now, kid? Back to the comment sections. At this point, I knew what I had to do next. They wanna play games? I'll play with them. I replied to Luna's comment, knowing YouTube would notify him for it. I then quickly deleted his and Sourcebird comments, then had both of them blocked. This way, when Luna came back to continue the comment chains, he would find nothing, and would also be unable to comment on my video. So the only option to catch my attention is the link to my Discord server I left in the description. Luna then attempted to raid my server, which was also unsuccessful as well, thanks to my basic security layout. But Luna hadn't given up just yet. He then proceeded to bait me into a DM conversation, which sadly for him, as his victory was also denied once again. Predictable and downright pathetic. March 7, 2019. Kuro attempted to sneak into my server, but was also stopped by the same security layout. He quickly left, and I also banned him just to make sure. On March 19, 2019, I returned to look at my server where I posted the NSW art that caught the attention of Givers before, only to find out it had become a strangely hazardous place. The server became a breeding nest for Kuro and his accomplices to fester their influences and misbehaviors beyond control. The admin had now been converted completely by Kuro and had given the power of administration and moderation to them, which they abused to their heart's content. As you can clearly see here, my role was altered by Kuro. Another member also had his mod role removed as well. Another member whom was previously a mod of the server was kicked for no reasons by Kuro. As confusion erupted, Mai, who was the administrator of the server, did nothing in her power to help clarify and the sudden changes. Nor had she done anything in her power to help maintain order of this already chaotic and lawless server, but she herself joined the chaos as well. It was now clear for everyone what was happening in this server. There was no more mystery shrouded in the darkness, only the truth at its most wicked nature. And then a familiar face showed up. It was Givers. Givers had finally revealed his true colors. Here it was evidently of him mocking me for my past personal hobby, which was being used against me in his own server before.
Respect. It's something that I feel has been lost lately.
And with that, I left the server alongside with my other friends. After this event, I blocked Givers for good. From what I heard, the server was shut down not long afterward for unknown reasons. With that, my personal experience with Kuro and his accomplices had come to a close.
Let's do this.
Even so, it was still riddling me with many questions. Questions that are still unanswered. Why? Why were they doing this? What would they even gain from this? Because all they gained so far from me were my bad impressions towards them. I've had a feeling that something was going on in this community, that something rather dark and disturbing was being hidden from the public, and I will find out the true nature behind this by any means necessary. May 30, 2019. I began my investigation on Kuro's gang and decided to bring their shady history into the light. Didn't have much to start with back then. July 30, 2019. Simarius was busy with some in-real-life issues, so I was personally handpicked by him and was promoted to be a temporary owner of the sanctuary. This allowed me to look into all of the past events that were reported in the Mod Chat channel to help me looking into this case from a different angle. And what did I learn? Let's find out. Ah yes, money. A piece of cotton paper that controls your life and is also the root of all evil. Kuro was also known for his SFM port commission scams. Not much is known when he started his career. How many has he scammed over the past 2 years? However, I know at least 6 documented cases so far. Since I've been requested by some of the victims to protect their identities, they will be censored and will be referred to as Subject 1, 2, 3, etc. in this video. Let's start with the first scam victim, Givers. Ironically, Givers himself was a scam victim. He came to Kuro commissioning him to port Asuka to SFM. Since Givers was too young to have his own PayPal, he gifted Kuro 2 games as payment instead. His Asuka model was never seen. The one he's currently using was ported by RBG unwillingly. It makes me question why this idiot is still sucking up with Kuro's gang, but then I realize I shouldn't question the logic of an idiot. You know, his brain really doesn't function properly when he called a guy that drove him blind a friend. Next one, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Collab. December 7, 2018. Nintendo published Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch. The game has been teased and hyped for quite some time. When it was released, it quickly became a hit. It was only a matter of time until Kuro's gang used this opportunity to do bad things. December 24, 2018. Givers came up with a brilliant idea to get the SSBU model ported to SFM. Givers started a group chat called Super Smash Filmmaker and began recruiting SFM porters and artists to help with this big collab project. There were RBG, Macho Boy, Kuro, Ace, Uniwaifu, Sneakiers, Sourcebird, and Subject 1. Everyone was hooked up and believed they would have the honor of testing these models themselves without knowing they were nothing more but free labor forces for Kuro's laziness. They all contributed their parts and worked tirelessly to get Link and Zelda done. When the models were nearly done, Kuro suggested that they needed a server to do some beta testing for these models before releasing them to public. Givers took back the responsibility and created one. Everyone then quickly left the group chat and dived into this server, all except RBG because he forgot to leave. However, things did not go as planned for the contributors. Only a few selected individuals such as Sourcebird and Givers were chosen to test the models, and the rest began to complain. Gibbous didn't take any sort of responsibility of this dumpster fire of a collab, as he was shifting the blames to the contributors for being annoying. Gibbous defended Kuro's choice of withholding it from the rest of them until it went to public, even claimed that Kuro had to restart the model from scratch all by himself. Then why did you even bother to open a collab in the first place? Gibbous wasn't being helpful at all, so RBG went to Kuro to complain about the issue. And Kuro himself wasn't being helpful as well. He mocked RBG for the complaint and also completely ignored his request to test the model. Eventually, Gibbous kicked all the contributors out of the server and lied to them he had the server deleted and began to transform it into his own questionable clubhouse, where he would rant about people he dislikes and to post Asuka hentai. Also, Toxic was invited in shortly afterward. When RBG started to point out the shady decisions, everyone was pissed at him. Kuro and Gibbous did not hesitate to kick him out of the server alongside with Subject 1, simply for taking side with RBG. Eventually, Kuro took over the server to invite and promote people who clearly prefer him over Gibbous. From December 29 to December 31st, 2018, Kuro published Link and Zelda to the SFM workshop as he took all the glory and credit for himself. The contributors weren't even mentioned, not even a thank you from Kuro, let alone any sort of compensation for their hard work. On August 18, 2019, after hearing all of this from RBG, I asked him to invite me to that Super Smash Filmmaker group chat to begin my digging. And that's how I got all this evidence. In conclusion,
Fantastic. This was a huge waste of my time.
next case, Random Talking Bush, or RTP, is a well-known Canadian Gmod and SFM porter of both communities. He's also responsible for the development of many scripts, which he wrote for porters to use them to extract models from various games, including the script Kuro's been using to port SSBU models without crediting him. I heard from RBG at one point when he was still in Gibbous servers. Kuro would often brag about how he and Sundown were successfully scamming RTB. So I sent RBG to establish contact with RTB to get some confirmation from him. So basically, Kuro and Sundown came to RTB to commission him some stuff. Sundown commissioned some JoJo models and a script for JoJo games. Kuro commissioned an updated script for Persona. Both commissions were $50 in total. So RTB got the JoJo models and the script done first. Had them both sent to Sundown, and all that's left is the Persona script for Kuro. However, RTB was having some lie problems, so the script couldn't have been done in time, and it was like only a month later when they both threatened RTB to give them a refund of complete $50 or they will demand a chargeback on PayPal. So despite of having the JoJo models and the script, they still demanded the full $50 simply because they couldn't wait for more than a month. That means these bastards got the JoJo shit completely for free. I'm pretty sure in Kuro's and Sundown's mind, writing a script is about as easy as hacking in Bioshock.
What? What the fuck?
September 10, 2019, a friend of mine who was also a scam victim of Kuro posted a status on his Steam profile raising awareness about Kuro's scam, which caught the attention of RTB as he spoke up and confirmed how he was scammed by Kuro.
Of all the things you monsters could have done, you should have never fucked with RTB!
Die, scum! Eat Voltgun!
Position secure. Maintain attack formation.
Next case, Subject 1. On July 14, 2018, Subject 1 came to Kuro to commission 3 Xenoblade model ports, Floran, Morak, and Zeke, and requested them to be uploaded to SFM Workshop for public usage as part of the bargain. Kuro charged $30 for each of the models. Subject 1 accepted the bargain and the models went into porting production. I'm unsure what was the specific day Kuro uploaded these models to the workshop, so I'll just assume they were uploaded to workshop on October 20, 2018, until they were all taken down at some point for unknown reasons. When Subject 1 asked why Kuro took them all down, Kuro vaguely stated he was freeing upload space, which is not true. There's no such thing as limited upload space on Workshop because you can upload as much add-ons as you wish. The only thing limited is the file size of each add-on you are allowed to upload, and that can be easily solved by splitting the contents into multiple parts. Upload them to Workshop and add those parts to your required items. Here you can see these SFM portals have over 6 or even 12 pages worth of contents. Even these Gmod portals have the same number of pages as well. Kuro also has 3 alternate accounts on Steam. Though I'm unsure about this one, but seeing its profile picture has his OC in it, I'll count that one as well. This one here, however, has a link to his main account. If Kuro has 3 alternate accounts, even just one only, wouldn't that mean he had nothing to worry about limit upload space, as he claimed to Subject 1? Subject 1 then requested Kuro to send over all the models he had previously commissioned to him, which he eventually did get them all from Kuro after spending some time pleading with him, which Kuro always gave him the screech line. And with that, the deal came to an end, but we're not done yet. From Subject 1's personal experience with Kuro, we have learned that Kuro had altered the deal and lied to his customer in plain sight. You may argue that Kuro did send all these models to him in the end, so there's nothing wrong with it. No, that's a violation of their original deal, because Subject 1 asked for those models to be put on Workshop in the first place, which he took them down afterwards to free his upload space, as he has claimed, while owning 3 alternate accounts which he didn't even bother to upload them to any of these, which he gave all of these knowledge hidden away from his customers. That's fraud, Kuro. Also, the reason Kuro took down the models and saying these words screech was because there was some meltdown between RBG and Kuro around this time. Subject 1 was in the same server as Kuro and witnessed this whole shit show from start to end. After RBG left Kuro's gang, Subject 1 asked Givers in the DM what was going on and said something under the line. Yeah, cause Kuro was screeching at RBG and I just wanted to know what's going on. But Givers, like a scumbag he is, ratted out his DM with Subject 1 to Kuro. Kuro was enraged that Subject 1 was taking RBG's side, so he scammed Subject 1 in return as a fuck you to him for insubordination. Even Givers admitted that he shared a conversation to Kuro and confirmed the reason Kuro scammed him. Reading Givers' messages has to be the most depressing things I've ever done in my life. It's so fucking stupid! This kid's definitely on crack right now.
It's so hot that my ball sack's touching the ground.
Now moving on to Subject 2. According to Subject 2's information, he first contacted Kuro through Steam chat, so I'll assume that it happened on the same day he paid Kuro. On November 1st, 2018, Subject 2 commissioned Kuro to port 2 Xenoblade models of Nia and Poppy to SFM. The transaction was made immediately. November 4, 2018, Subject 2 requested Kuro to change his commissions for the Xenoblade models since Nia was already ported by someone else on the SFM Workshop, so the deal had been altered to porting Laura and Haze instead. On November 20, 2018, Subject 2 came back to Kuro to check up on the progress of his commissions. Kuro told Subject 2 he had finished Laura, but was still having problems with Hayes' face flexes, which extended the progress of the port even further. Which is odd, since the flexes are already built within the models, so much in the mesh of the face, teeth, and brow shouldn't be a problem. Not to mention, he had done other Xenoblade model ports before, so it shouldn't be too difficult with this specific character considering the model is from the same source. Something seems rather fishy here. On December 5, 2018, Subject 2 came back to Kuro to check on the progress of the commissions again. Laura port was done, but the progress of Hayes port was still unchanged. So Subject 2 suggested Kuro to change Hayes with Poppy this time, which Kuro agreed. On January 8, 2019, Subject 2 came back to Kuro to check up on the progress of the commissions again. However, the only thing Subject 2 got back from Kuro in return were excuses, such as he was taking a short break or he was busy sorting out files to reset his PC. Subject 2 gave Kuro the benefit of the doubt and gave him more extra time. On January 19, 2019, which was also my birthday, Subject 2 came back to Kuro to check up on the commissions again and was given even more excuses for the delay. However, Subject 2's patience had grown weary after months of no progress and no evidence screenshots. And within those times, Kuro has also released many models on Workshop. Subject 2 demanded a specific release day of the commission, which was falsely given by Kuro. On February 26, 2019, Subject 2 came back to Kuro once more. Kuro came up with even more excuses for the delay, which didn't surprise Subject 2 anymore at this point, as he demanded to call off the whole deal. But then Kuro made another false promise again. Subject 2 seemed to have decided to learn porting all by himself due to the incompetence of his commissioner. Kuro promised to give him some learning tips in return as compensation. On March 2nd, 2019, Subject 2 came back to Kuro asking for some assistance of a model port he was working on. However, there was no response from Kuro. On March 20, 2019, Kuro sent a screenshot of Subject 2 compliment on a model port made by Inferno in RPG server, asking what was the context behind the compliment, which seemed to be poking fun at Kuro's ego and incompetencies. Ouch. However, Subject 2 seemed to also spot something suspicious. Kuro was not in RPG server because he was banned. So how did Kuro get that screenshot not 2 minutes after Subject 2 made a compliment?
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible... I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise!
Feeling insulted, Kuro tried to defend himself with his past excuses for the delay of the commission. Subject 2 was determined to ask for a refund of $60 from Kuro, which Kuro then came up with another excuse from his end. And this time, it had something to do with his PayPal's address document verification. Subject 2 asked Kuro if he had a bank account or a credit card. Kuro said he had none because he had no ID yet, so he could not verify those requirements. Wait, hold up a minute there. How can he make transaction on PayPal without a credit card, which requires an ID in order to have a bank account, in order to have a credit card? How can he own a PayPal account before turning 18? So if he had no credit card or bank account, where would the money even go? You know PayPal isn't the only way to send money, right? Anyway, Kuro tried to fortify his excuse by telling the story of how his friend had to deal with the same problem. However, there was a bit of inconsistency in his claim. It happened months ago, but it took him half a year later to resolve it. That's not how time works! Since there was nothing could be done at this point, Kuro shrugged off the burden of refunding $60 like nothing happened. He also claimed that since he was too busy with real-life stuff, he had not even enough time for himself to do his own special projects, even though he was publishing other models and making countless posters throughout the course of those times. He also claimed he had closed his commissions as well, which somehow reopened itself and closed again 2 weeks later. And just like that, subject to $60 worth of commissions faded away like dust. Nothing more happened after this point. No more feedbacks from Kuro if he was still working on the models to compensate for this lackluster of a bargain, nor were there any progress of his PayPal's issue. Such irresponsibility angers me. Remember when Kuro said he had issue with Haze's model due to some issues with merging some of her meshes which corrupted her face flexes? Well, it's time for me to descend into that mystery.
Here we go! I'm gonna do what's called a pro gamer move.
Excellent! Let's do this, my friends! Prepare for your examination! Massaker! Nani? Oh, wunderbar! Fascinating. That was fun. Wunderbar. Slow down. Ah! What do you think of this? Magic. Good to go! We did it! Run, bitch! Run!
This is epic! And just like that, I managed to create a basic test port with fully functioning flexes with no issue under 30 minutes, which Kuro failed to deliver in months. The port, as you can see here, isn't perfect because that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point here is I managed to merge the face mesh with the eyebrows and the teeth without getting the face flexes corrupted, which took me only a few seconds to do so simply by selecting all the meshes and hitting Ctrl J. Whether Kuro is as godly and masterful in porting as he claimed himself to be, or a complete joke, I'll leave that to your speculations. From subjects to personal experience with Kuro, we have learned that Kuro took the money from his customer without giving anything in return, lied and excused his way out of every obligation he was put into, and clearly did not take his responsibility seriously at all. You disgust me, Kuro! Fuck off! And now for the last victim on the list, Subject 3. July 11, 2018. Subject 3 discovered Kuro's post on DeviantArt and was wondering if he could commission some Xenoblade model ports for Gmod. Kuro assured him that he could if Subject 3 was willing to pay him for it. On September 13, 2018, Subject 3 contacted Kuro via Steam chat and was ready to do business. Kuro charged him $45 for both Mithra and Pyra models, but also asked for the extra $5 to pay internet bill. The progress was fruitless, with nothing has been done yet. As Subject 3 grew more impatient, Kuro promised him he would also port extra outfits for those models and reassure him that it would be worth the wait. On April 4, 2019, Kuro finally uploaded the commissioned models to the SFM workshop. He didn't even bother to credit Subject 3 in the description. Subject 3 was relieved that it was a world away, but then again there was still no Gmod version yet. Funny enough, the original add-on of this used to contain only Pyra, and it was also uploaded 2 days after Inferno posted a whip of his Pyra port in RBG server, which is to no one's surprise at this point, as it is full of Kuro's spies. This was Kuro's attempt to one-up with Inferno so that he can take the #1 spotlight on the SFM workshop. Also bear in mind, Kuro also tried to scam Subject 2 on the same commission he was working for Subject 3 for $80 fucking dollars! June 7, 2019. Subject 3 came to Kuro asking for the progress of the port. Kuro told him the physics meshes were done and he just needed some time to test the constraint. June 19, 2019, Subject 3 came to Kuro asking for the progress of the port again. Kuro told him he had to reinstall his Windows and his tools again. That sounds familiar, isn't it? Didn't he have his Windows reinstalled back in February 26, 2019? Subject 3 asked for an estimated date, but Kuro said he has none. Subject 3 asked why. Kuro said he was busy with in real life stuff and had to reinstall his Windows and tools as well, so Subject 3 gave him the benefit of the doubt and bought Kuro more time. July 21st, 2019. Subject 3 checked up with Kuro again. Kuro simply replied everything was in the final stages. Subject 3 asked Kuro if he couldn't show some pictures to prove it, but received no answer as Kuro went dark. On July 25, 2019, Subject 3 contacted Kuro on Twitter to get some answer, as he also realized ever since they last spoke, Kuro had been posting a lot of things on his Twitter account, which Subject 3 assumed that his copy of Windows had been installed successfully, but he received no answer as well. The truth is, throughout the course of the commission from then to now, Kuro has been doing a lot of unrelated stuff to the commissions.
Liar!
August 5, 2019, Subject 3 came to Kuro and asked him to show pictures. Kuro showed a picture of Pyra's physics mesh to Subject 3. And this physics mesh was nothing more but a cover of evidence to fool Subject 3 that he was genuinely working on the model. Subject 3 grew suspicious toward Kuro because of this and asked him if there's anything else to show. Kuro said Pyra was done and only Mythra was left, made Subject 3 even more suspicious. Subject 3 asked if he has any estimates, and then received no answer. August 14, 2019. Kuro sent Subject 3 screenshots of his progress for the commission. However, only pictures of Pyra's model were shown. Kuro reassured him he would be well compensated and stated he had to do some necessary tweaks. Kuro said porting to Gmod was a very difficult process, and that's why he doesn't port to Gmod much. I mean, if it was a problem and outside of your field of expertise, why did you even offer your server to him in the first place? Subject 3 requested Kuro to take pictures of him interacting Pyra models with the fist gun in the game and told him to type this specific command into the console. Kuro was wondering what the command was for until he realized it was to displace the physics mesh on the model. Subject 3 was actually testing Kuro to see if the model actually had the physics mesh. Kuro knew this, so he only showed a screenshot of him interacting with the default model of Pyra, excluding the other variants of her. Subject 3 then asked him for an estimate again. Kuro promised it would be either at the end of August or early September. Subject 3 wondered if there's anything else to show him since Kuro only sent him pictures of Pyra. Kuro said only Mythra and their source were left. Subject 3 asked Kuro if Mythra physics are still in work in progress stage and demanded some pictures of her as well. Kuro said he needed to do some adjustment for the physics mesh. Funny, weren't the ports supposed to be in their final stages already? It was now Subject 3 grew even more suspicious towards Kuro and demanded him to line up all the models and take a screenshot of all of them with the console command toggle on so that he couldn't see if the other models even had physics meshes or not. But then Kuro went offline immediately after such a demand. Very fishy indeed. But Kuro came back online shortly after and told him he already sent the picture of all pirates earlier. Subject 3 repeated his demand once more time, and then Kuro went offline for real. August 15, 2019. Kuro sent a pictures of all pirates with physics meshes on them and a pictures of all the Mitras lined up but without any physics meshes. Subject 3 clarified his demand once more that he needed the pictures of the Mitras to have the console command toggle on. It was here that Kuro shot his own foot when he told Subject 3 that picture was actually in SFM, as the model still had no physics meshes yet. Subject 3 expressed his suspicion towards Kuro as he asked how strange that Kuro told him everything was in their final stages before. Kuro went offline once more. Once is a mistake, twice is a decision, and any more than that is a habit. The fact that Kuro always went offline whenever Subject 3 asked him some very sensitive questions or demanded him to show proof regarding to the progress of the commissions proved that Kuro did that in order to dodge the question and also to silently fabricate fake evidence of him genuinely working on the commissions to fool his customers.
I believed in you.
Kuro.
I never believed in anything. All a lie!
September 4, 2019. Nintendo added Sans from Undertale to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as a costume for me, Gunner.
Oh my dude, you just got pranked! Bet you didn't see that one coming, huh?
The hype was real, and everyone had gone nuts about it.
What? What? He's in, boys!
On September 6, 2019, Kuro saw someone who went by the name The Creeps Are Real had posted a whip of his Sans port on Twitter. So Kuro decided to one-up with this guy by making a very rushed port to take the #1 spotlight on the workshop. September 7, 2019. It was now or never. Kuro uploaded his Sans to the SFM workshop and received lots of praise for it. Because of this, Creep's effort was all in vain. So I did what I had to. While Kuro was resting in his bed, I had more than enough time to convert this model to Gmod within the same day and uploaded it to Gmod Workshop. This was actually my bait to lure Kuro out to react to me, and he fell for it. He thought what I did was simply a stupid and futile gesture to tick him off. Since he's too lazy to even make a proper Gmod port for anything, he was overconfident and thought all I did was simply helping his lazy ass to do the dirty work for him. Kuro embedded a link to my Gmod port in the description of his Sans, and the text was mocking my past brony status. So I did the same on my end for his scammer status. I went to Kuro's SFM Sans to see what I should do next. I saw him telling one of the commentators that porting was easy and all that took him within an hour at best. I then left a comment to intimidate him for his lie. The comment was quickly deleted and I was also blocked and could no longer comment on any of his shit. Kuro was overly confident and tried to pile up the comment section of my Gmod Sans with his partners in crime, taunting me for calling him out. I quickly blocked all of them except Kuro, and like a coward he is, Kuro did not dare to make his next move on his own. September 8, 2019. Subject 3 showed up to ask for the progress of the commission for one last time. Kuro said they are all done and he was having a friend to test them out. Subject 3 insisted Kuro to show him some proof and offer him his assistant to test the models for Kuro before having them published to Gmod Workshop. Kuro refused. It was now things got a bit more interesting. Subject 3 expressed his impatience and annoyance towards Kuro after an entire year with nothing fruitful. He pointed out throughout the entire time Kuro has been doing nothing but unrelated stuff to the commissions and demanded a refund, which Kuro also refused and excused his PayPal was broken for quite some time, and still tried his best to reassure Subject 3 the models were all done. Subject 3 pointed out all Kuro ever did was send him fact evidence and not the real models. At this point, Kuro believed Subject 3 was influenced by some false accusation about him on his Steam comments. Subject 3 implied he was not, but all he saw was this picture embedded on the SFM San Kuro ported. Kuro was now cornered and had nothing much to say to defend himself. Subject 3 called Kuro out for promising what he can't give and for lying to him the entire time. He demanded a refund right at once and threatened Kuro if he does not comply, there will be consequences. Kuro was afraid Subject 3 was being manipulated by some cancel culture bandwagons against him on Steam, and explained to Subject 3 the picture was an inside joke between his friends. But Kuro went offline immediately and resumed the conversation much later. He now repeated the same song he had sung to Subject 2 when he was also demanded to refund him, the Broken PayPal ballad. Kuro also said Subject 3's threats weren't going to work on him and reassured Subject 3 that he will get the models. He stated he won't be taking commissions anymore since he's too busy with in-real-life stuff. Yes, we have heard this before, Kuro. Kuro then asked for a commission disclaimer that he has never shown to any of his customers before and proudly proclaimed he can take as long as possible he needed to finish his commissions. And Kuro also expressed his negative attitude towards Subject 3, accusing him for participating a cancel culture bandwagon. Subject 3 was now more suspicious than ever and began to do what's called a pro gamer move. Subject 3 started to break down every of Kuro's lies one by one. First, he pointed out if Kuro's PayPal really was broken, then how come he was able to make any transaction at all? Because Kuro recently bought a bunch of Naruto games when they were on sale. Second, if Kuro was as busy with in-real-life stuff as he claimed, how come he still had time to do all the unrelated stuff such as a ton of Gundam and Faye model ports, poster. Most of these things on the workshop are all hype train, trend-surfing shit, including the Sans model. Subject 3 also caught him by the balls, saying Kuro had never informed him about such disclaimer in the first place. In fact, Kuro promised him he would have the ports done within a few weeks after getting paid a year ago. If there was such a disclaimer, what does Kuro have as proof besides a now deleted DeviantArt post? Third, since Kuro brought up the cancel culture bandwagon to accuse him of being manipulated by it, it only made Subject 3's suspicion towards Kuro even stronger. Lastly, Subject 3 revealed that he was an acquaintance of Subject 2 the entire time, and that Kuro had scammed him using the same exact excuses. Kuro also told him he had to close his commission due to this problem, and had also promised Subject 2 that he would update him about his PayPal issue to get the refund sorted out. But ever since then, Kuro never did that. Instead, 2 weeks later, he actually closed another commission poll. This means Kuro was lying and was still scamming people through his commissions behind his customers' back. Subject 3 also brought up that he learned from RTB that Kuro also scammed him for his work just because he couldn't deliver his shit fast enough to Kuro within the first month. Which is ironic because Kuro had spent an entire fucking year doing unrelated shit to the commissions. While all these points were brought up to corner Kuro's lies, he had already gone ahead to block Subject 3 on Twitter and set his Steam profile private. It was now that Kuro had shown his true colors. Enraged by this, Subject 3 concluded that Kuro is indeed a scammer and threatening if he does not get his money back, there will be consequences. Kuro said it was too long, didn't read, and still insisted to prove to him that he can't refund and begged Subject 3 to send him his email to prove his innocence. Subject 3 retorted that by asking Kuro why didn't he compensate his friend, and he has had enough with Kuro's excuses, knowing too well this was just Kuro's attempt to damage Control. Kuro still didn't admit everything was his own fault even to the very end. After that, Kuro blocked Subject 3 on both Steam and DeviantArt. He also enacted a full lockdown on both his Twitter and his Steam. Kuro removed the Jinro add-on from his workshop and also made his Sans port private to purge all the comments. He also removed the no Gmod penalty picture and also removed the embedded link to my Gmod Sans. And that was Subject 3's personal experience with Kuro, and was also the last documented scam victim. An entire year of wild goose chase returned only with both his hands empty. Why, Kuro?
Why the hell would you do this? What good does it do you?
Well, the answer should be obvious by now.
We've got to have money.
Funnily enough, Kuro also had all these models released way before the commission of all the subjects were even taking place. Cobb is Kuro's #1 promo poster artist that clearly has all these functioning models sent to him by Kuro back in fucking April 2018. That was like 4 months after the game was released on Switch, and its trend was still relevant back then. So that means this scumbag was charging his customers for a bunch of models that were already ported into SFM, which he gave all of them to himself and his inner circle, and lied to his customers about the whole process and issues on his end. And the reason why he took down these models from time to time was so that he can scam people all over again. Let's not forget that PayPal has a legal agreement that they will not investigate any sort of transaction and will not give you refunds if your transaction has exceeded over 180 days. So Kuro was smart enough to keep his customer under the loop for as long as possible, so that even when they find out they were scammed much later, they won't be able to do shit about it. And now, Kuro, for the biggest reveal of all time, I'm going to tell you this. Subject 3 never had any intention of getting his money back from you. You have been fooled the entire time, Kuro. Ever since June 17, 2019, you were no longer interacting with your customer anymore, but it was me! When I first saw Subject 3 on your Steam friend list, I came to him to inform him about your infamous status within the SFM community. After I told him how much people have you been scamming so far, he agreed to help me to expose your greedy, lazy ass. Ever since then, you were nothing more but a cow for me to milk even more evidence to use against you. I've been pulling the strings on this entire event, and everything was going according to what I had calculated. All you've ever done was fall into every single one of my traps that I had prepared for you. Also, the fun part is you didn't even realize you were being played like a damn fiddle. Do you feel like a smartass now, Kuro? Do you have anything else to say to defend yourself? I thought not. Let's not forget you also attempted to scam my friend Atali when he posted Mira's video in the sanctuary and was wondering where he could find the saber model used in that video. I quickly deleted the video and told him we don't talk about Mira in the server. Not even long after that, you contacted him immediately even though it was only few minutes after he was looking for the model in that server. With that, you fell for another one of my traps. Funny how you say you stopped doing Gmod ports and Subject 3 commissions was going to be the last. But that didn't stop you from trying to scam another person for the same shit. And by the way, Kuro, changing your Discord tag number isn't going to do jack shit. I've already recorded our DM conversation way before you even had it changed. Let's not also forget your messages on RBG server when you raided it. These messages aren't going anywhere, so no matter how hard you try to hide your identity, it's all useless. I think allowing Nitro users the ability to change their ID tags can be considered as a great mistake from Discord, because with people like Kuro running around with multiple ID tags, this is just encouraging vice. So I hope they will do something about it in the future. If Givers was a rat, then you're a fucking snake, Kuro. And to think scumbags such as yourself, a Canadian student who obviously had a much better life than me, had free education, even graduated from high school, and what did you do with that life? You became a cyber criminal instead, living off the days by scamming strangers on the internet, making undeserving money, believing you were safe and protected.
You were deceived. And now your
reputation
shall fall.
This is not something I can let you get away with. In this field of work, professionalism is a standard, and excuses can only carry you so far. With all of your excuses, lies, and tricks that you use to scam your victims exposed widely to the internet, I wonder how you will make any more money after this.
Savor every single bite on your sandwich, Brad. Make it your last meal.
Time to get serious.
Nice.
Gotcha, bitch!
Kuro, besides scamming, was also known for uploading fake troll models to the XFM workshop and sometimes taking down the real models from the workshop to free his limited upload space, which is fake and bullshit. Now for a short summarization of the Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer started out as a series of dark fantasy light novels written by Kumo Kagiyu and illustrated by Noboru Kanatsuki. The first volume was published on February 15, 2016. On May 25, 2016, a manga adaptation of Goblin Slayer was serialized, and it was excellent enough to get its own anime on October 7, 2018. Coincidentally enough, a fan of the manga named Nikite made a Goblin Slayer model and published it on Sketchfab on August 26, 2017, which was in between the time frame of the manga and the anime. By the point the anime came out, Goblin Slayer quickly became a phenomenon for many reasons. Everywhere on social media, there was only Goblin Slayer. Almost everyone had already seen it, talk about it, and meme it. And with this model laying around with a reasonable fee tag, it was a golden opportunity for trolls like Kuro to use it for questionable deeds. But based on this video uploaded by Jerry Freeman, Mira was the mastermind behind the upload of these troll models.
Miramo Studios for tricking everyone over that Goblin Slayer model, you traitor! I trust in you!
Thanks, Jerry, for ratting out your friend. On October 4, 2018, which was 12 days before the Goblin Slayer troll model, Mira uploaded another troll model of the Rathalos armor from Monster Hunter World. Kinda speaks volume to all this. Take a look at the description. You can see Kuro and Toxic contributed their posters. This can only means they too are involved in this shit show. The comment section of the model was also questionable as nothing added up to anything. From speculation, many comments could have been deleted by Mira to create confusions. After downloading the model for myself, I can simply confirm the model was indeed fake, as it turned out to be the most hideous looking abomination I have ever seen. Take a closer look into the comment section. We also see many people complaining about the model quality, in which Kuro and his minions attempted to feed false information to their confused subscribers, such as telling them to use advanced lining method. Intriguing, Kuro told this person to shine lines on the model in order to transform it into a good-looking model. All it did was highlighting these texts and Discord profile pictures of Sundown. After breaking down the texture files, I found something rather interesting, such as crop out Discord screenshots of Sundown's messages to be used as a running gag of this model. I heard from RPG that Kuro's gang had a fallout with Sundown back then, so this could only mean this add-on was meant to be poking fun at him. If it looks like shit, sounds like shit, smells like shit, and tastes like shit, then it's obviously made of shit. June 25, 2018, South Korea released a live-action adaptation of Jinro, the Wolf Brigade, a very iconic Japanese animated movie released on November 17, 1999. Despite the live-action being mediocre at best, it was still doing a great job building up the hype and nostalgia feelings for every long-time fan. On September 3, 2018, Kuro uploaded a custom model based on the Panzer Corps from Jinro, the Wolf Brigade, to serve on this trend. However, when I look into the comment section, something's very stingy about it. Many people pointed out if this was a joke or something and how the model looked outdated and crappy like the one from Gmoth Workshop. Then Kuro and some of his underlings began feeding false information to the commentators, such as how they needed a better PC or a GeForce RTX graphics card or use advanced lining method in order for the model to look as good as the one in the poster. What a load of shit, I can tell you that. On February 28, 2019, after 5 months sitting on the workshop, Kuro updated this add-on. When you look at the promo poster, you can see the add-on comes with new things such as the MG42 and a trench coat variant of the Panzer Corps. But even the recent comments pointed out the same issues the previous ones had. So I decided to subscribe to this model to see it for myself. And to no one's surprise, the comments weren't lying. This add-on is indeed fake, and it's still the same shit. There is no trenchcoat variant, no MG42, and certainly no legit Panzer Cop. There's only one item inside this add-on, and it's an outdated player model from Gmod Workshop. Boy! Source engine is an outdated engine, not a top-of-the-line industrial product like Unreal Engine 4 or Frostbite engine. Due to its limitations, most of Valve's game and programs built on the same engine are so optimized that you don't even need a NASA computer in order to run them. Chroma will straight up refuse to compile your model if your model has exceeded the limited bond counts, limited flexes, limited poly counts, limited texture counts. Not just Source game, but most games will always have graphical control mechanism built into the game, which you can easily adjust the setting in the main menu or startup menu. Running on low setting will not alter the model meshes that much into a bundle of poop. Some polygons might be reduced, but not that much of a big deal. It will also lower the detail level of the textures, disabling a few features and effects. The texture on the fake model are still in high details, and in no way would a model like this can get degraded to look exactly like this one. 3D models don't just remodel their own meshes and magically retexture themselves based on the performance of your computer. Hell, I once completed Dead Rising 2 on a PC that wasn't even designed to play games with only 5 FPS, and such screen didn't turn into a Roblox character.
You lie!
Tis. And to think our tax money goes to pay you jerks to stay in school. Is this a joke to you or something? Come on guys, grow the fuck up. If you think wasting everyone's time and subverting their expectation make a good joke, then you really should go home and rethink about your life. You see, as Albert Einstein had quote, the difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits, and I have seen no limits coming from you and your gang so far. You're not a clown, you're the entire circus! As for the amount of legit models that have been taken down from the workshop by Kuro, no one knows how many were there. But here are some models I have found so far based on some of his posts on Twitter and Devin. Let us pause for a moment of silence and offer a prayer for those poor souls that will most likely never see the light of the SFM workshop. I think at this point it's safer for you to just learn how to port models yourself, or better, uninstall SFM, install Blender, and invest your time into learning how to use it. It's free, updated frequently, and obviously 10 times better than this abandonware currently infested by scumbags. One thing I also noticed about the Jinro add-on is that Kuro did not credit it to the original author, and neither did he embed any links to the source of this model. Getting curious, I went to Google and began my search, and eventually I found the source. The original model belongs to a professional artist on ArtStation named Carl Martin, a character artist working for Treyarch. Upon inspection, the model is identical to the one Kuro's gang gave to themselves. One thing didn't make sense to me was, this model was never meant for distribution, only for displays, so how did they acquire it? I did a little more search on the internet and found a post on ArtStation posted by another artist named Mike Laws, a 3D generalist for 22 Cans. According to his post, his models were stolen and distributed for free on a website named DesireFX. Mike stated he never distributed his models to anyone or anywhere. Apparently his models were somehow ripped straight out of the Marmoset's 3D viewer on his page. So I quickly rechecked Carl's page for the Jinro model again, and there was indeed a Marmoset 3D viewer at the end of the page. I then quickly searched on Google to see if there were any methods to rip a 3D model straight out of Model Viewer on ArcStation and Sketchfab. I found two methods. One requires the use of Ninja Reaper, a tool that is very familiar to every Source porter by now. Another one is a special script that requires you to install a software named Python in order to use it. Now, since I know nothing about scripting and coding, so I didn't bother to test any of them out to confirm. Based on Kuro's description on the add-on, Toxic Code was the one found the model and had it rigged for him. I went to Toxic Code's DeviantArt profile and surfed through his Jinro posters to find more clues. Eventually, I found this post. In the description, Toxic stated the model was ripped from another source without the author's permission. This means he has already given it away that the model was stolen from Kao. To confirm this, I instructed one of my informants to establish contact with Kao Martin immediately to notify him about the stolen model. Kao was surprised by this news and was also disappointed of Kuro's gang for using his access without his permission and without crediting him. Kao assumed it was just a harmless animation skill practice without being aware of the full nature of the video my informant also sent to him. Kao asked for the Discord link, which my informant had none, so the conversation ended there with them parting ways. This was all too perfect according to my plan. Thanks to my informant, I now have confirmation from Kao Martin that his model was indeed stolen by Kuro's gang, while at the same time giving Kao Martin on the loop to buy some more time for Kuro's gang to keep clowning around. And when this video is released, it will be out too late for them to escape. And now here's the cherry on top of the anus. Apparently stealing from a professional artist wasn't enough, so Kuro's gang turned their eyes on a new prize. On January 31st, 2019, the unexpected thing happened. Kuro uploaded the real Goblin Slayer model to his alternate Steam account. After spending 4 days sitting on the front page of SFM Workshop, the model got DMCA claim and was quickly removed from the workshop. Despite its short-lived legacies, the model managed to reach 4 stars of rating and thousands of subscribers within hours since upload. This has truly shown how hungry were the people of the internet for the Goblin Slayer, and how far would Kuro's gang go just to toy around with their hunger. On June 3rd, 2019, I established contact with Nikite to learn new things from his perspective. In order to understand what has happened, let's recap all the events. On October 13, 2018, Mira purchased the model legally on Sketchfab and then handed the model to Kuro for porting. On October 16, 2018, Kuro uploaded the troll model to SFM Workshop to fuck with everyone's expectation for cheap laps. When news of the troll model got to Nikite, he quickly came to Mira's servers and demanded him to take it down, which Mira and his accomplices obliged. Due to Kuro's gang great interest in the character and with how well was the model ported, Nikite let it slide for Kuro's gang this time and allowed them to continue with their uses of the model as long as they don't distribute it, an act of compassion that would soon devastate him. Not long after, something happened within Kuro's inner circle. Someone was fed up and tired of Kuro's nonsense, had decided to break up with him and ran away with the Goblin Slayer model. It was RBG from Giba's servers. Knowing this, Kuro empowered his brain with the combined wisdom of Solomon, Sun Tzu, and Creed. Kuro proceeded to make the impossible tactical decision that will change the course of this conflict in the most professional fashion no one has ever done before.
You're safe now.
Surprise, motherfucker! You thought I was going to keep my word, did you?
What a fucking idiot. Nikite then confronted Kuro and Kuro spilled the beans. I am now completely speechless and hopeless at the same time of how dense and foolish Kuro can get over time. He could have solved this tiny leakage simply by notifying Nikita about RBG. However, RBG was not even aware of where Kuro even got the model from. The model was already leaked to these people in Mira's public server before this incident. So Kuro's false claim on RBG's intention of leaking it to the sanctuaries is completely invalid, because Kuro himself was the one leaking it to him in the first place, when Kuro clearly had no right to hold nor distribute the model to begin with. But nothing can undo what Kuro has done. Compare a small leakage that was quickly contained in a small public server with only 15 active members at the most, with a large leakage in a public website where hundreds if not thousands of people are checking on it every day, and you can see the difference here. And worst of all, when the leak happened, Nikita came to Mira's server asking if anyone knew who was Babu. Nikita didn't get a lot of useful info from them, as they were clearly shielding Kuro from his wrath, because Kuro and Babu are the same persons. According to Nikita's story, Mira's minion told him Babu has left the server after pulling this stunt and was no longer with their gang. However, based on Kuro's and Mira's Steam friend list, and Kuro's currently still residing in Mira's servers, that was just another big fat lie. After Nikita left, Mira came out of hiding and said no. His accomplices were also very happy and relieved that they just dodged a bullet. Or was it? Mira has shown no sign of responsibility and remorse for what has happened, while he was clearly aware of the situation. This was an expression of confidence because he just redirected the bullet to someone else instead. This was only further proven the leakage was actually a big setup. It's a trap! When RBG was fed up with Kuro's gang and left with the Goblin Slayer model, Kuro's gang decided to use Kuro's alternate account on Steam to upload the model to Workshop, and then they framed RBG and the Sanctuary for leaking it. They made Nikita believe that Babu was RBG, that he was part of the Sanctuary, and then set him loose on a wild goose chase. Now, giving way too much credit to a gang full of airheads here. The most possible scenario here is that after RBG leaked the Goblin Slayer model to Simaris, and Simaris distributed it in the Sanctuary, that made Kuro's gang freak out, and so they released the model to the SFM Workshop as a defense mechanism to make RBG's effort of leaking it useless. Kuro most likely left Mira's server when he pulled this stunt as an alibi of Mira's innocence. The Sanctuary had taken notice of the situation when Nikita joined the server in a very impulsive and angry manner. So they had taken down the download link of the model in the material channel, and also announced the entire server to not use nor distribute the model under Nikita's demand. Both Nikita and Simaris have also cleared things up with him and also informed him about Kuro's gang infamous status and told him who really was Babu. Also wanted to note, throughout the time of the leaked incident until now, not even once has Mira contacted Nikita directly, no compensation, and not even an apology to Nikita for the incident caused by his gang. Ironically, Simaris and RBG were the only two people apologizing to Nikita for something they clearly were not fully responsible for. Kuro also apologized to Nikita, but as much damage as he has done so far, his apology means jack shit. Even a simple act as crediting the original artist for their hard work was callously ignored by Kuro's gang. Even more so on Mira's videos, as he clearly did not credit Nikita for the model in the description of his videos. If he had enough time to credit Kuro for the port and Jerry for the voice, why couldn't he do the same for Nikita and his model? It's not even that hard to do. Oh, I think I see the pattern here. It's because Kuro's gang couldn't afford other people to know where they got the model from. They did not credit Nikita because they couldn't afford the competitions.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Another thing I also want to point out as well is that Sketch Farm has a seat count for every license, and in Mira's case, he only purchased the single seat editorial license for the Goblin Slayer. If he did purchase a multi-seat license, he would have paid Nikita more than the standard price available for the product back then in order for his accomplices to acquire and use the same model. With that, Mira had already broken the agreement of the standard license before Kuro even unofficially publishing it to the workshop. As you know, SFM is linked directly to the workshop page. Any changes made on the workshop, such as when a specific add-on gets removed or has been updated, SFM will notify the users if they want to keep the current add-on or updated. This means anyone who had already subscribed to the Goblin Slayer add-on before it was taken down can continue to keep its files within their computers and can easily duplicate it, reverse engineer it, or even sell it. Now, while I don't know exactly how many people did subscribe to the model, but based on the 4 stars rating it got after only a few hours within uploading until it was taken down 4 days later, we can estimate the numbers of subscribers could be ranging from 500 to 2,000. And let's do a little math here.
That's a lot of damage!
For all we know, the leak on SFM Workshop was already a big monetary loss. However, that wasn't even the end of it. After the leak on SFM Workshop, the Goblin Slayer model eventually found its way to DeviantArt and Etsy. According to Nikita, his monetary loss on Etsy was on a larger scale and might still be going. Nikita tried his best to contain the leakage at the best of his ability. However, there was little can be done to fix the damage already caused by Kuro, as Nikita was dealing with this whole mess all by himself. Even his inner circle was powerless against this unexpected disaster, and Nikita eventually gave up on salvaging the model. You may ask, why didn't Nikita sue them? Well, it's very complicated. Due to copyright infringement, Nikita's Goblin Slayer model would be considered an unlicensed product, as the right of the character belongs to Kumo Kagyu. So if a lawsuit were to be made, the legal case would not fall into Nikita's favor at all. Granted, if it did, he would still have to pay for lawyer and the amount of court fees, which could cost even more than what he could gain back in return. Nikita is still currently a conscripted soldier, and in no way would he have that kind of money, so a court case is ruled out. And with all of that, we learned that Kuro's gang had just set an innocent content creator on fire just so that they could get the sweet taste of revenge and of relevancies on the workshop for only 4 days.
You're an emotional fucking cripple. Your soul is dog shit. Every single fucking thing about you is ugly.
One thing I want to point out as well is that Kuro has been stealing 3D assets from the Sanctuary and RBG server. These models were exclusively distributed in these servers, yet Kuro somehow managed to acquire them to make shit posts out of them as an attempt to startle RBG and the owner of the models. You know what this means, right, Kuro? It means you just broke another one of Discord's term of service. My. I can't wait to get you IP banned from Discord and also have your PayPal investigated by the police. Since RTB himself is also a Canadian, so reporting you to the police is just a piece of cake. You are now 18, a fully grown legal adult. You're on and out to spend some time in jail.
Oh, hello there, new fish.
Well. Now look back what we have here. 5 stolen models. 1 illegally distribution of a 3D model, all conducted within the time span of a month. 6 scams from 2018 to 2019. And these are only the documented ones. It's ironic for your gang to call me a communist when you are all stealing, cheating, scamming and lying to everyone you meet. But even a communist would find your gang absolutely insulting to his belief, because communism in general wants to abolish private property, but not personal property. robbing someone of their personal property is still robbery. You know, freedom fighters trying to take down some evil regime collectively taking everything away from everyone. You are no Robin Hood stealing from the rich to help the poor because you are stealing from hard-working content creators for yourselves. You're no heroes because heroes don't do that kind of shit! And these selfish and unthinkable actions are in no way, in no capacities, to no extent on any magnitude of the moral compass are justifiable or defensible. You are dicks, frauds, liars, criminals, and nothing can change those facts!
The thing is, if I win, you're just another punk! You win, and you'll be sent away even quicker for beating up the head boy! Why'd you do it?
Kuro.
Because I can! Because making little people like you and the morons who run this
Community.
eat out of the palm of my hand feels great! But I never did anything to you! You would've if I'd given you the chance! Face it, I'm smarter than you! Oh, congratulations! You're smarter than me! You hate everyone and everyone hates you! Genius!
Toxic.
Likes me, I
Scammed your friends. Turned your server into a laughing stock. Accused you for rape.
unfairly put several others into therapy, and he still likes me! You're such a loser! Well, at least
I'm not a Gmod horse fucker like you.
you're dead!
So it was you who took on this monstrous little wretch, was it?
Yep.
Now take out the trash, would you?
Jackie.
My pleasure.
No! God, please, no! No!
I'm terribly sorry that I have to end the video here because the next part in the script is about as long as this entire video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for episode 2, which we will release somewhere in the next couple of months. I understand this is the most poorly constructed video I've ever done in my life, and I'm terribly sorry for that. Please share the video around with your friends and your communities if you believe the video is actually informative and useful. I also want to thank everyone for supporting me in making this video and also for watching it. And I'll see you guys in the next video of inspections.
Give me money, give me money, give me money, don't expect your money. Scamming you was as easy as pie, because I don't really have a life. I work hard.